you get here on time. Thank you. Hopefully tonight we'll get a lot out of what's going to be presented. I'll let Darrell do the introductions. I'm going to take the back seat. As you're all aware, I know nothing about coaching. Hopefully I will learn something by the time the end of the evening is over. Thanks, Darrell.
Yeah. Yeah, obviously this is the first time we've caught up like this, and to have this many coaches in there, Andy was just saying it's really impressive, so thanks a heap for coming out. It's going to be a very good way to get us started. A little bit different generally down the track. You know, in the second one, I'll be able to present some information, be able to discuss a little bit more, but tonight I'm very happy to let Andy run it. He's over here, we've got him in, he's doing a bit of work in the camp tomorrow, who was down toward the end of the camp today, so we're really trying to capitalise on him being here. When I was playing in Western Australia, Andy was coaching the state basketball league team that I was with. They've been extremely successful. How many times were the finals in the last, in there?
How many times in the finals?
Yeah, or making the finals this year.
You missed out one. So.
Yeah, so one of the most successful FBL clubs since getting going. He was the assistant coach for the Wildcats, won some championships there, and he's won WA Coach of the Year countless times. So all this to say, he's got a very good head on his shoulders, and his perspective of the game is very unique, and I think one of the best in Australia in what he brings to that side of things. So keep an open mind tonight and try and take in as much as what he's got to say. From my perspective, what I want to do with some of these meetings is present some information to you guys, and mine's going to be sort of the bigger picture sort of stuff. So rather than telling you what to do, looking at how to structure training to best transfer skill learning and things like that, so you guys can sort of fill in the gaps. But another aspect we want to look at is continuing between the programs, so from juniors up to seniors. And one way that we do want to do that is to have a look at emotion offense, so that at least all the way through the program they're familiar with that sort of concept. So regardless of what else you put in there, the players have that and they can pick that up, and then you can run with that and tweak it and adjust it as you like. And the motion offense that we had in the state basketball team was it worked really well, and it ticks a lot of boxes that I like. It's not very robotic, and that's one thing I really want to emphasise is giving players that creativity, especially while they're developing, to not lock them into anything. And like anything, if you teach it incorrectly and the players go through the wrong way, they can make it robotic. But we really want to emphasise the free choice within it, and then reacting to each other. So someone makes a wrong cut, it's not necessarily the wrong cut, everyone reacts properly to it and gets spacing and things. So that's one thing we would like you to pick up, and that's what I've asked Andy to touch on a fair bit with this meeting, and just show you how to use that, implement it, and make it his own. But a lot of the philosophies and things we share, and even talking, discussing, coming to this meeting, it's uncanny. This is sort of the direction we're going around the skills and everything else. So I've said he's got the floor, just adapt it as we see fit. If you guys have any questions, feel free to throw them out and still sort of take the meeting any direction that we need it to go. We're really trying to use them up tonight. So thanks for joining us, Andy.
I'll get into the nuts and bolts of the offense later on. I want to start with. I've prepared. I want to tell you up front. I've prepared nothing. Okay. The whole idea was that I wanted to make sure a number of Victorians wasted their night, because we've been trying to beat you for I don't know how many years. No, I do this professionally, and that's not just in Australia. Also, every now and again, I get to go overseas and do this and take groups. And sometimes, I find the best thing is to find out where you're at, rather than put something up on the board, which might be under you or over you. What's the point of that? A big part of it is I'm going to get you to ask me questions, and we're going to break things down. That'll lead us off into other areas, which will be of extreme use. And then as in the latter part of the night, I'll show you some of the concepts inside. That's a fine, isn't it? Is it a fine? Yeah. Inside the, I'll go through the finer parts of the offense and see what you. One of the things that I hate to do is to squash anybody's originality. And so that's very tough with regard to you're trying to run a club and a team, but you're also trying to look after individuals and their individual skills and talents. If you go too far in one direction, you become robotic. You go too far in the other direction, you've got no control. And so what I'd say and what I'd recommend to you guys and to Darrell is that you run this motion and everybody knows how to run it. but you still keep throwing in your own pet things that you enjoy seeing on a basketball court as well. One of the toughest things for kids to move from level to level, you know, to go from 12s to 14s to 16s to 18s, is that they'll go and you might even trial them out. You might say, this kid's going great, we'll trial him in 18s, and they come in and the offense and all the concepts and the philosophy of that particular coach are completely different to what his coach has been teaching him. So then he sits and treads water for 3 or 4 weeks. He can't run certain drills, everybody thinks he's pretty average, his level of belief in himself starts to drop away. So that's why it's good to have a relatively common theme throughout the club, but not held on like you're not allowed to do that because it's not inside this. Anyway, I'll start with pretty much why are you doing what you're doing. If I was to say what's the most important place in your life, what would you say? Home. And we refer to home in this sort of stuff as first place. The first place is home. That's where we're in most, 99% of households, home's great. What's the second most important place? Work. Or career or school, or, for the student, it's going to be the school. How many of the kids get to choose their home? None. How many of them get to choose their school? None. How many of them get to choose their sport? All of them. So it's a first place, home; second place, school, career, university, school, work. Third place is their place of choice. 500 years ago, it was the village square. In the UK, 150 years ago, it was the corner pub. In Australia, it's the local sporting association, right across the board. Third place, it's their place of choice. It's what they love to do. They come for what? Fun.
Revelation.
Yeah. So I'll stay with the fun bit. They're running up and down the court. There's a bin over the sideline. They're doing pre-season. It's a hot 26-degree day in Melbourne. I'll get at it.
It's not hot. It's not hot.
And they're feeling sick. How much fun are they having in that? So I don't know that fun defines it. I think enjoyment defines it. And we can even use that word validation. I want to achieve something. When you sit down and study for an exam and you finish the exam and you nailed it, you wouldn't have said that study was much fun. But you've enjoyed the success. You've enjoyed where you've got to. And so I think fun is, if I could use this, it's the movies, it's time zone, it's the casino, it's all that sort of stuff. Enjoyment is setting goals. I want to do this, I want to be relatively good at this, I want to work with a group, I want to achieve, the group wants to achieve, etc., etc. Sometimes it wouldn't be that much fun, but it's enjoyable. It's a place of choice. And that's what they're coming to you and they're choosing as good as choosing you. What's your ability to influence them?
Motivate?
Influence them, yeah, motivate, whatever. It's huge. It's absolutely huge. Now the teacher, they might not want to be at school. And they've heard mum and dad enough sometimes. Everybody that's got a 14 to 18-year-old knows that. So the choice place means that they enter the relationship with you very quickly. They've chosen it. It's not been put upon them. You're going to go to this school, you're going to do that class, you're going to pass this exam, etc., etc. So that's what I think makes the Sporting Association brilliant with regard to what you can get done here. If you see it as we need to win the championship, if we see this as about winning, how many teams are in your league? 22. Okay, 22. And sometimes they might even split that and I don't know, might make a division of 11 or something like that. You play 11, 12, 15 different teams. Let's be fair. There's 15 teams in the league, which means you're allowed to win the championship, if we're being fair, once every 15 years. So the other 14 years are crap. Why would you choose that? That's not much fun. That's not very enjoyable. So as soon as we set the goal on we must win, we're setting ourselves up for failure in that sort of situation. That's probably not going to work out with regard to that. If we set it up with regard to these incredible life lessons, we're building brilliant community. We're engaging in young people's lives, and we have an area of influence over them that's quite significant. What are the learning tools inside basketball? They're life learning skills. Sorry? Team.
Communication.
Communication.
Setting goals.
Goals.
Developing agenda.
Goals, team, communication, what else?
Winning and failure.
Sorry, yeah, winning.
Planning.
Planning, yep. Losing. Planning. Commitment. Fitness.
Mateship.
Huh?
Mateship.
Yep. Mateship, yep. Skills.
Knowledge.
Knowledge. There you go, I didn't even know knowledge how to write it. What else?
It's endless.
Yeah, it is. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. It's life in a little test tube. What they get out of hard work. What about this one? Where does that sit in our society at the moment? What's our respect towards authority? Yeah, what do we think about politicians? And what do we think about voting for politicians? Worst thing is, we know another politician is going to get voted in. Doesn't matter which way we go. So they've got to handle your authority, they've got to handle the score bench, they've got to handle the referees, they've got to handle a whole bunch of different pieces of authority. And you have a great opportunity to develop young lives but in the end, let's be serious. Does it matter if we win or lose?
Well, absolutely.
Does it? See, that's the problem with West Australia. We don't care. I was talking to the 2IC of Basketball Victoria, and he said, look, we had a meeting because one of our teams won the silver medal in the national championships. One of the Victorian teams won a silver medal, and he said, no, that team should have won the gold medal. And he said the meeting was ferocious, with people arguing in the meeting as to, but you go to Western Australia, our CEO is a lawyer, our governance is perfect, our auditing is perfect, can't pass, can't catch, can't shoot, but everything else is in order. So, but in reality, I mean, the pursuit of the win is massive. The pursuit of it, absolutely. That is a common goal inside the group, and we're heading towards that, and we're planning for it, and we're setting goals at it, and all that sort of stuff. So the pursuit is huge. But the actual result, if we lost, we can live with it. Sun comes up tomorrow, and we don't want to. And far out, I'm exceptionally competitive. I played a computer game yesterday against one of the guys. I haven't played it for probably 15 years. I said, I will annihilate you. I did. And then I let every single person, in the whole squad, there's 100 kids there, they all know that I annihilated him in this dumb computer game. So, yeah, look, everybody's competitive, or lots of people are competitive, but this is the key to, I think, club. You're going to have some good teams, you're going to have some mediocre teams, you're going to have some bad teams, and sometimes you're going to do everything right and still have a team where it's just that year, where everybody in the community that was 5'4", all their kids are playing for your club this year. You know, you just don't have an athletic team, you don't have a dominant big team, you've done everything right, and it's not quite working out on the court. Does it really matter? Yeah, the pursuit does. But the life skills are just massive. And I suppose that's the framework that I want to build everything around, is third place. They've chosen you. Now I walked into this room, and so I walked in there and there's one guy sitting in there, I didn't realise he was a tennis guy. I had no idea you were in here. And so we were just chatting and then somebody pointed to us to come in this door, and I came in and there's 20 people. Now I'll tell you, that's rare. And I lecture everywhere. And to get this sort of group, and certainly this sort of size of adult males, all sitting in the same room, working on this, no, I've not seen this before. Normally there's going to be a 14-year-old, a 16-year-old, 2 18-year-olds, etc., etc., etc. But to see so many mature minds are going to throw into your community, that's pretty exciting. That's pretty exciting. Okay, so what's the one thing that every one of those players can do better than anybody else? The players, your players. What can they do better than everybody else?
Talk. Try.
No, because how many girls teams you have?
8.
I thought that was relatively subtle. So only 8 of them are going to talk better than the others. All right, so they can't talk better. I did this discussion. I hope you don't mind. You don't mind it. I did this discussion and I said, who's the fastest in the room? And the kid had actually left. And so that was pretty quick. So who's the fastest in the room? This guy's the fastest in the room. Okay, you know anybody faster? Yeah. So first lie. So he knows a couple of people faster. Who's the most skilled person in this room? Yep. Okay. So do you know anybody more skilled? Is anybody going to tell the truth? So, yep, we know that there's more skilled people. And then I'm lecturing this time, and I said, can you stand up, mate? I said, who's the tallest person in this room? And he goes, and I said, do you know anybody taller? No. Have you ever met anybody taller? No. So he's the tallest guy in Australia. He is, he beat Sam Harris by. I said 1 centimetre, but I got corrected straight away. He says, not 2. And then I said, why would, I understand, I've got a mate who's about 5'6½". He always argues about the extra 1 centimetre. He says, he's not a half. He says, I'm 5'6 3/4". Like, what do you think you're talking about? So he grabs his extra 2 centimetres and says, no, I'm 2 centimetres taller than the guy that claims to be the tallest in Australia. So what's that one thing?
Well, good line.
Yeah, the good liars. Yep.
Right.
Huh?
Right.
They have the ability to make a decision. They have the ability to make a decision better for them, better than anybody else. They know where they're headed. They know whether they're going to go left. They know whether they're going to go right. They know whether they're going to shoot or they're going to pass. The one advantage they have over every single person, doesn't matter how big, how small, how weak, how unskilled, they have the ability to make a decision. So the game becomes, how do you help them make decisions? Not how do you put X's and O's in place and run this and run that and run this. The purist of basketball doesn't have the X's and O's. The guys just keep making great decisions. The opposition can't follow them. It's probably the true definition of motion. Is everybody's just making good decisions out there. So how do you get a player, can I grab that ball? How do you get a player to make a decision? So if I throw some...
You throw all the other factors out.
All right, I'm going to throw them out with you. I'm going to say 4 14s.
Oh, sorry, 64.
Try again.
4 14-year-old players.
No, 4 times 14. 4 times 14. You 54. No, we're not.
No.
We're getting there. Doesn't normally work like this. So we got 56, right? So then I've got a situation here where I go, I hope you don't mind. And it's a similar problem. Right, 515s, 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 515s. So when there's time and space, and there's a problem, and there's time and space, you get to make a decision. When there's no time and space and under pressure, her response was, I've got no idea. Now if I step back and I say, now think this through, you got all day, 5 times 15, she's going to come up with 75. And
I'm just a team player. Just a team player, not like you.
so what's the key to decision making? Time and space. Time and space. Now what 3 situations are you in offence? Well, there's 4. But what 3 situations are you in offence? 1, you have the ball. 2, you're on the dribble. 3, you don't have the ball. And 4, you're sitting down. That's the one you don't really.
No one likes.
Yeah. So in offence, you have the ball, you have it on the dribble, or you don't have it at all. Right? It's those 3 areas that we need to make a decision. So I have the ball, come play down, and the ball's here. And I need to make a decision. And he who doesn't want me to make a decision, so he's pressure. So he's coming after the ball. Now I pivot the ball. Yep. And what does he do? He has to come around and get it. So for them to pressure the ball. Now if he just stands there and I get to stand here, I'm like, do I have time and space?
Yes.
Yeah. So there's no issue. So I can make a decision, I want to pass you. So we've made that decision, we're into our offence, we're running our stuff. He's saying, no, you're not allowed to make easy decisions. My job as defence is to mess you up, is to disrupt you. So therefore I'm going to come and get the ball. So he comes to get the ball. And I pivot. Right? Now, how many steps does he have to take to get pressure on the ball? 3 or 4. How many do I take?
1.
Half. And the rule is, ball first, foot second. Ball first, foot second. Down low. Let's bring the ball down, just a couple of inches off the ground. Ball first, foot second. If he wants to pursue pressure, square back up, ball and foot together. He comes around again. He's thinking, now I have to be early. If I'm going to get this ball, I've got to be early. That's why the foot didn't go. So the foot stays, ball goes. So you can imagine, I do half a pivot, he goes early, and I'm going. Does that make sense? So in the pivot situation, how many of you have broken down and taught the pivot? Really taught it and broken it down to that level? You need to do that. And you need to do that under pressure. And the person that's doing the pressuring needs to be the coach, not stand there and have them. So picture this in front. If you teach it wrong, you actually have players taking the ball towards the defence. No, I'm not going to react to this until he comes towards me, and then I'm going to go. When I pivot, I only go to 90 degrees. Why?
Take the ball.
Sort of. I can protect the ball by going 180. Yeah, that's right. So I turn my back to one. Okay. So we'll bring that one back in later. We'll bring that concept back in later. And this is what we do. You throw out stuff, I get a feel for where you're at, and then we work through that. So, in that situation, teaching the pivot is absolutely essential. If the player can't hold the ball on their own, they can't play. You can't run an offence. The timing's a mess. How do we get the timing right? Somebody needs to stop and say, hey, over there. Good, let's go. How do you run an offence? How do you do anything? What do you know becomes more perfect? We have a bike that's not working, so we put it outside to get it better. It doesn't work. So we have filthy clothes, so we leave them waiting for them to get cleaned. It doesn't work. Nothing works towards perfection. Everything works away. Would you agree? The car rusts. The house gets dirty. Everything gets out of control rather than gets more towards control. It's the same with basketball. We're going to run a perfect offense. We've got 5 people. This is the ball, then the other 4. How are we looking? Yeah, we suck. There's no way in the world. There's no way in the world that can work. So somebody needs to say, stop, get in the spot. Now, hopefully, you know, you've got your kids to a stage where they can run into that spot. No problems. But how often will they do that? Every now and again they'll get it wrong. So somebody has to have make a decision. Has to have that time and space where they make a decision. So now we've got the second situation. We're on the dribble. So we're on the dribble, I'm being pressured, and keep using your line, you should never say that. And there's no speech here, so you start. Okay, so I'm on the dribble, right? I want to create time and space. What do? Retreat. Retreat. Now, how do I retreat? What do I do with the dribble on the retreat?
Pull the ball back.
Pull the ball back. So if I pull the ball back, is it exposed to him? Very exposed to him.
Bar, protect the ball, get it down low.
Yep. So there's one point guard. I'm going to have to know that. There's one point guard in the world who's ever been able to use an arm bar and be successful. And his name was Magic Johnson. Every other point guard hasn't used an arm bar. But when you're 130 kilos and you're 6'9", you can push anybody out of the way. So we watched him at the Entertainment Centre in Perth playing against Andrew Vlahoff. Does everybody know that guy? Mammoth. And there's Magic Johnson. He's walking up the court. Bump, bump. Vlahoff's trying to hold his spot. Just way too strong. If the kids want to be quick, they need to have the ball in this position. If they want to be slow, they need to have the ball in this position. Very hard to accelerate out. Good,
Just on that, I'm not so sure. You won't be able to play a record, right? A few years ago, wasn't that taken out of the game? Or wasn't it starting to be picked up already? So just
the push-off was.
yeah,
The push-off was, the extension of the armbar was. But you can put you can do anything with your body, as long as you don't extend it at any stage. You can stick your head here, but you can't headbutt anybody. So the whole thing, it was argued philosophically to be pulled out of the level 1 course because it's just slow. It's slow way up the court. You want to challenge kids to be as quick as they can with the ball and to move up the floor. Not only that, but that's the other thing, is it's hard to get from here across to there, and it's poor for vision. I can only see a portion of the floor. So philosophically, I'd say remove it. When the game first started, they didn't have the ability to have these pneumatic, they didn't have the pneumatic type. They didn't have valves. So when the game first started, they had a ball, and it was full of sawdust, cloth, you name it, whatever they could use. And it wasn't round. It actually wasn't round until about 1950. They didn't have the technology. So you can imagine the balls were all pigskin laced together. You couldn't dribble them properly, even when they did have a valve and put it in. The initial game, the ball bounced like that. It didn't bounce. So to get the ball from one end to the other, you have to throw it to yourself. Now it doesn't make sense for me to be here, you can stay, for me to be here and do this. But we teach this, which is exactly the same. So to pass the ball to yourself was the challenge back then. They had to throw it to themselves, and it was very much a passing game back then. All right up until the 50s. Until the 50s, they had the ability to make a perfectly round ball, it would bounce and come back. And that changed the game completely. And the ball handling skills went through the roof, and the game accelerated enormously. So if you look at creating time and space in relation to, I want to throw the ball to where I'd like to be to make a good decision. So it's like this. It would actually be this. And throw the ball to a distance away. So working on this skill is very useful for the kids. Now I've got time and space. Now they could have pursued after me, but I'll tell you point blank, they flat out don't. And it's very, very difficult for him then, once he's realised that I'm back here, now come impression. So come impression, it doesn't matter what he does, I want to be that way. Because he can't go forward and back. Well, who can? Coyote, Roadrunner, you know, that's about it. All the mortals, you know, us, but we can't go forward and back. So no matter, even if he's faster than me, even if he's better than me, he can't defend me. Because he's running in this direction and I'm running in this direction. Does that make sense? So the creation of space. So I throw the ball back here. Now, going from there, the crossover and the onside, those two dribbles. I've thrown the ball back. Now, if I was to cross the ball over against him now, right, how much of the dribble goes towards him and how much goes away? Huh? Half and half? About 50%. So the use of the crossover with the defence there is actually very dangerous. If he's not always going to get it, but every now and again he's going to get his hand there just in time to deflect the ball, knock the ball, and something bad could happen. I might get the ball back, it might hit my foot, he might steal it, something bad's going to happen. So step back to where you were, and I've thrown the ball back here. If he attacks the ball, crossover spends how much time going towards him? 0. If he attacks the body, crossover spends 50%. What does the underside do? 0. So teaching the kids, they're the dribbles that you need, and this is why, gives you something to really break down as you're teaching the dribble. So in that situation, we've said, I'm going to create some space, so you want to come with the ball? No, I've got a bit of space. And I've got space and time, even though I'm on the dribble, to be able to make a reasonable decision. What's he going to do? Come back, try to get in front. I'd have to go here. I might have to even go sideways. And this is the concept of that far point that I wanted to make, is a lot of the game we base around the ring. But my safest dribble is sideways. Because for him to pressure that, he'd have to get to here. Now it's exposed everything. So sometimes just dribbling flat across the court is quite a useful skill for the kids to use, rather than pursuing the ring on a consistent basis. Does that make sense? Okay, so we've got those two things with regard to decision making. We've got the ball in our hands, and we're not in any rush. Because we can hold the ball and pivot and look, and pivot and look, and pivot and look. Okay, good. Now we're into our stuff. We're on the dribble. They're trying to pressure us. We're saying no. Okay, no, no. Okay, we're in our stuff. Now we're off the ball. We need to make a decision. Can I get you? And can you hand the ball? She's playing defence on me. Okay, so she's gone into a. Do you guys work on a deny stance or an open stance? Which one? Open?
Some most play open.
Most play open, that's good. Yeah. I'll just grab a seat, I'll just stay on that one just for a second.
Good job.
Yeah, you did good. Who's the most selfish human beings on the planet? What do you say?
See that one. It's women's.
Oh, you mean gender? Nice. That's really nice. You're probably not going to get outvoted here, but babies. Babies. What if they don't get fed?
They cry.
What if they don't get changed?
They cry.
What if they just feel like it?
They cry.
Thank you. Right, so there, now, as we get older and older, I think you notice, and sometimes it's not necessarily nice, but I've noticed some 80, 90-year-olds become very, very selfish. But I think you could almost trend that up until about 50, 60, people are getting less selfish. Now, I might be slightly off, but I know that an 8-year-old is going to cross the road for what? Get there. Yeah. And their vision's that. And an adult and a parent especially is going to go boom, and they're going to go, and they're going to pick up everything that's around, knowing that if they don't look after the little one's going to get in trouble. So parents, adults, have way better peripheral vision than the kids. The whole denial stance was developed pretty much in college basketball, not in high school basketball. If anything, in high school basketball in the US, it went from this stance to this stance to this stance, and as they got older and their vision got better, it's that, now I can deny this. So it's tough to teach denial. Now we call it a denial stance. How many of your kids deny it? No. It's crazy, isn't it? Get rid of it. Open stance. Get them seeing the ball, get them reading. The other thing is, I've got to do it with you. You understand why? Is it easier, can you hold that finger? Is it easier to see that or that? It's a whole lot easier to see that. You didn't want to get called it that. So I thought okay. So is it easier? It's easier to see that. So therefore, I need to spend more of my time seeing that. And less of my time seeing that. That's tough. That's really tough for me to be able to see that. I open up, I can still see you. Now what do they do in the games? What colour are you guys?
That.
Okay, that was a good one. So you're that, or you're gold, are you? Every now and again, I don't know. White, okay. And what are they? Dark. They're pretty easy to see. They're big enough, that's harder to see. So open stance. And I'm sitting here thinking about how am I going to get to that. Now I'm in a good position with this person, pretty much. If I get caught doing that, now I'm in trouble. How does he get me to do that? Move. How does he get me to turn my head? If he drops out, if he goes in a straight line and drops below, what am I going to do? I'm going to try to find him. Now what am I going to do? I found him. What? I'm going to try to find this. What am I doing now?
Losing him.
I'm not finding him. And that's that third one. The key to off the ball is to not let me get comfortable. If I get comfortable for a second, for 1 second on the basketball court, if the defense is comfortable for 1 second, what are they doing? Planning. They're planning your demise. Because they're thinking, you know what, he might drive. I'm off. You know what, he might skip pass. I'm off. What if he's cutting? What are they thinking? Oh my goodness, you've got to get a cut. They're not playing your demise anymore. They're playing catch-up. So off the ball, if we're on the move, if we're making good decisions off the ball, and that's the key to basketball. The key to basketball is decision making. Why is Andrew Graves the greatest?
Make good decisions.
Huh?
Make good decisions.
No, because of the Melbourne Press.
Was he that good?
Huh? No, he's brilliant. He's a superstar. He's an absolute superstar. 6'7", couldn't jump, can't run.
He ran off the ball.
I know. His decision making was absolutely brilliant. And the reason why he didn't succeed in the NBA is because they had some brilliant decision makers who were 6'7" and athletic. And he's 6'7" and a brilliant decision maker, but not that athletic. And so every now and again he couldn't get out of trouble using his athleticism. But as for a smarts on the court, brilliant. Any man that can score, dominate the Olympics. Is he first or second each time he played the Olympics for a couple of Olympics? Phenomenal. I mean, it helps if your dad keeps up doing it. But and runs plays for you. But no, he's a superstar, absolute superstar, and he's the classic of he got given 6'7". That's a fair gift. But athletically, no, he didn't get given a lot. But he's brilliant decision making. His ability to move off the ball. Brad Robbins, one of the guys I coached at the Wildcats a few years ago, he said it was just brilliant the first game. He said, get subbed in, he has to match up on Andrew Gaze. He's only a rookie, and he's matching up on Andrew Gaze. And Andrew Gaze goes, welcome to the league, boy. And he gives him a pat on the backside, and they're standing there next to each other, and he goes, hey, bang, lap, welcome to the league, boy. You know, and his ability, he got him to focus on something he wasn't supposed to focus on, just for a second, bang, 2 points. That's brilliant decision making. You are going to control a certain amount of that, but the more that you don't control, the better off you are. The more decision making that they're making on their own, the better off you're going to be. Who gets them open? Your offense gets them open.
Well, it depends, it changes. We're focusing on also creating skill sets so they can create their own separation.
That's correct. And that's what I'm saying. So we run an offense and we get a kid open, and we run an offense and get a kid open. Isn't it so much better when they create that skill set and they can get themselves open?
Correct.
And that's what you're after, and that's the key. Now, how does that help their career path? You're going to play for anybody. And so what the offense that we're going to show you tonight is going to give them multiple skills where they can go and go, oh, so he calls it a flex cut, right? Or they call it a shuffle. It's a combination of a whole different cuts and reads, and in a very simple form, where you know that the kids are thinking, I can make decisions with the ball, on the dribble, off the ball. Guy sets a screen, I can use that. Guy doesn't set a screen, I can use that. We space out, I can use that. I drop down below my player, he looks at the ball, I can use that. And it becomes their continual decision making which is going to get them open or give them the space that they need to work in, the time and space they need to make that decision. Okay. Does that sound all right with you? Yeah. Some of that makes sense? All of it. I don't know about the I don't know about the yeah. Most of it. Not the women do. That wasn't fair. So what do we anyone want water?
Is it too hot in here?
Why are anyone doing this?
I'll just make that decision.
Yeah, in the defense.
We taught you how to make that decision.
You got anything you want to throw out right now on that before I move on to another sort of topic? What? Okay, good. That's a good decision. What's that?
Can you show that to my kids?
I'll show all of that to your kids. Well, I'll try tomorrow at the camp. What have we got, about 70 on?
Yeah, 74, so
That's pretty good. Huh? Yeah, okay.
A lot of this.
What did you call me? Sorry?
Sorry, a lot of what I want to see. That was Andrew?
When I'm in trouble, right, my wife and my mum call me Andy.
Oh, shit.
And everybody else calls me Andy, so
Andy.
I didn't know if I'd done something. So go on.
A lot of that looks as though, it looks as though there's to me, the way it's panning out, you've got to have a very, very strong focus on those individual skill sets from a very early age then. In that
Absolutely.
Because there's a point in time where you get them to around about 16s and 18s, and now you're focusing on honing those skills and also honing a set of chain skills so they can create that separation, because the one dribble, the one retreat's not going to be enough. Because defense, we've taught them defense.
And then we're going to have to go off in a different direction. You're going to have to mix up the dribble, half and onside, reverse, crossover, all that sort of stuff.
So the question is, in terms of running your program, I'm assuming your implications are that you've got to get these very, very base skill sets really right from 10s?
No, not necessarily.
Yeah,
That's
that's
a good question. Yes, you do. There's no way in the world you wouldn't start them there.
Yeah.
One of my mates played. Funny story about Andrew Goes. He actually started playing when he was 18 years old. 6'6", started playing when he was 18. By the time he was 19, he was in the state under-20 team. Now, the national tournament that year was in Perth. I'm going back a fair few years. And he got selected into the Australian squad out of that. Only been playing 1 year.
Yeah, there are exceptions.
No, I understand. I want to go on because I've got a funny story. So don't cut me off. Okay. So anyway, he's 6'6". Who does he get matched up on? This other 6'7" kid, Andrew Gaze. He said he's only been playing 1 year. This guy's been playing before he was born, and he annihilates him during the trials. He doesn't make the Australian team because he got matched up with this superstar that the guy was. The thing about it is, it's not the amount of 8 years they've spent in the sport, it's the amount of minutes. It's not whether they're 14, it's whether or not when they're 14, they're willing to do 15 or 20 minutes worth of homework every night. And then all of a sudden, now if you look at this, look at the kid that's been playing for 5 seasons. 5 seasons, that's a fair chunk of time, isn't it? How long has he had the ball in his hands? An hour. 5 hours. 20-minute games in domestic. Fair? Yep, let's say that it's actually 21. Because maths works out better. And I don't have to throw you guys with maths problems that you're all going to get wrong. Victorians. How many players? Domestic? 7. 8. Yep. 8 doesn't work. Sorry. So 21 minutes, 7. He's had the ball in his hands for 3 minutes because we've only had it for 21, and there's 7 of us. And if we share it around, but we don't share it around because there's a good point guard who has it a little bit more than everybody. He only has it for 2 minutes. Inside a domestic year, he might play a season, I call it, 20 games. He's had the ball in his hands for 40 minutes. By 5, 3 hours, just over 3 hours. That's all he's had the ball in his hands for. It's not a case of how many years, it's a case of how many minutes. How many times did they spend with the ball in their hands? So you guys have 1.5 hours to train. The US has 10 hours. The kids are at school, they walk straight from their room to the gym, and they're going to be in the gym for 2 hours now. Now, what are the coaches doing? They're planning on the side of the court because they're all school teachers. They didn't have time to type up a plan and set everything up, right? So they're all off to the side setting up a plan for the training session. Whiteboard maybe, or scribbling on some paper. What are the kids doing? No. Some are goofing off, but they've started training now. Guys, I want you to run. What are they going to run? 3-man weave. 3-man weave and a 5-man weave and all that sort of stuff. So over here, the coaches can get together, discuss everything, plan their session, got it all ready to go, boom, step in and train. What does the Australian group do? We don't have any time. What? It's pretty random.
No, not for me. Don't worry about it. He's an electric thinker.
I bet he was something else when he said, he said he was the mafia or something. Okay, so anyway. The American coach comes out to Australia, teaches us a 3-man weave. We spend all our time. A chunk of you will run a 3-man weave. We want to get the ball up here, we want to get the ball up here, want to maybe bring the ball up here or up the middle. So what do we do to warm up? 3-man weave. And you might not, I don't care. Your drill has to pertain to the game. Waste of time if you're not. If you're doing drills that have no relevance to this specific game plan that you're headed towards, if you're doing a Cincinnati shooting drill, why? I want to see how many, well, that's got nothing to do with the offense we're running. Where do you shoot the ball from? You shoot from there? No. Why are you shooting it from there? Right now then? Yeah, we're building skills, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, but Cincinnati actually does encompass a lot of the things that I look in transition.
And if that's what you got,
yeah.
And if that's what you bring in, and you say the reason why we're doing this is because I want you to flip the ball up there, up the sideline as hard as you can. I want you to see this, I want you to see that. But then you're going to ask, are we passing the ball from there to a shooter in whatever drill we're running? Well, no. How often do we pass the ball from there to a shooter? How often do we start the game warming up, receiving the ball from here? How many times do we receive the ball from there to shoot the ball in a game? Probably not that many times. Okay, so I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not going to destroy your... Let me say, everything that you've done up until this stage is right. It's not wrong. I'm not challenging anything you've done. I coached Darrell for a few years in the state league. Everybody goes, oh, you guys are all about pressure defense, aren't you? And I go, yeah, we're all about pressure defense. Because I don't know how to teach science. We're all about pressure defense. Why? Because I wouldn't know trap if I fell over. I didn't know. I walk into the Wildcats, I have the quickest job interview ever. Welcome aboard. That was it. Rob Beveridge says to me, when can you start? Oh, tomorrow? Good. See you there. That was it. That was my job interview. Brilliant. I walk in. I go, oh, right. You're not talking Chinese. They're talking Martian. They're from another planet. I have no idea what they're talking about. But I'm a qualified state league, coach of the year, all that sort of crap. Right? And all of a sudden I'm thrown in. As a coach, what you've got to say is, your past has been good because it's got you to here. Be vulnerable enough to say, you know what? I don't know it all. And I'm going to add a little bit more, and add a little bit more, and add a little bit more. And you might walk out of this time, you might take 15, 20% of what I've said. You might take 3. You're all better off. Even if you just take 3 from it. When do you get these opportunities? No. When do you get the opportunity to sit around in a room and talk to a bunch of guys who like the sport enough to just throw different things around? When you get into those meetings, don't walk in going, I know it, because I know you don't. Because I've not been to the top. Well, I have the most successful NBL record of all time coaching. I'm 1-0. What's that?
Your winning strike rate is 77 or 70.
Yeah, somewhat.
Yeah.
Well, but my NBL one is 100, so I'd prefer to talk about that one.
I want to go slow. Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, Trevor couldn't make it. I had to coach. I had some chump up there, Shane Hill. And we're allowed about to say, oh no, he's from here, isn't he?
Yeah, he's from here. He said Chuck, you're right, though.
Oh, okay. Whatever. Anyway, it had nothing to do with James Ennis. Right? I don't want anybody to think it had anything to do with those sort of guys. It was all me. Anyway, where was I? Okay, what I'm saying to you is, you're going to pick up little bits of information all the time. You're going to pick up more if you're vulnerable. You're going to pick up much if you're too strong. If you say, nah, it's all about this and it's all about that garbage. When you're vulnerable enough to say, you know what, I don't really understand that. I don't really understand this. That's when you're going to take in more information. And you're going to go, oh, I might have to play around with this. As soon as we get to the stage of, look, I just want it simplified, just give it to me simple, so I can apply it simple, quit. That's not enjoyable. That's doing a job. Who wants to do a job like that? That's not fun. That's why I liked walking in the door tonight and seeing, well, maybe it was the pieces that attracted everybody. But to see 20 guys standing in here going, and the energy was high already. That's when I think there's a percentage of you guys that actually like this. And the challenge is right now, extract as much out of me and then reject it. And go, you know what, that doesn't work. Well, my business partner is a lady that played, she was in the National League squad for netball, and she captained our state league teams over there. One of the coaches comes up and just quietly says to her, you know, I don't agree with everything he's saying. She goes, turns to him and goes, yes, that's exactly where we wanted you to get to. We want you to be at the stage where you're thinking through so much that you go, you know what you're teaching's not right. And then she said, by the way, I don't agree with you. But what's good is the person got to that stage where they're challenging their own mind, their own thoughts, and they're mucking around with different concepts. So how do we change this? What's the most valuable part of the game if you were to look at this? It's the 7-minute warm-up. That's when they're going to get their most ball handling. So what do we do? I'm going to challenge you in a couple of areas. Where is the most unlikely place on the basketball court for you to get a straight layup to the hoop? From the 45. From here. If I steal the ball here, I can get a straight layup. What if we ball reverse the ball fast enough to get the ball here and they haven't rotated? I can get a straight layup. The most unlikely place to get a straight layup is the place that we do 7 minutes of warm-ups from. So why? And that's what I'm saying. Challenge yourselves to go, now there's nothing wrong with that spot, because we're going to get that spot during the game, aren't we? So what do they need to do from that spot? Shoot it, or catch it and rip it, and go to the hoop, change direction, and finish at the rim. Nothing wrong with that. Go somewhere else, hit the skids, do a pull-up jumper. Nothing wrong with it. But to do a bunch of catch-on-the-run layups, after layup, after layup, after layup, isn't necessarily building a skill that's going to be useful for the game. Yeah, but it's getting us warm. Yeah, but we can get warm other ways. So there's 7 kids there. How many basketballs are out there?
2. Hopefully 2 or 3.
And why don't we have 7? Why don't we have 7? Everybody's got to bring a ball. I don't know what the rules are at the club. Maybe you're not allowed to do that. If not, I don't know. Do you bring in your own ball? Look, some stadiums are not allowed to bring in basketballs. So I say to those stadiums, we'll go to your people and say, you want 7 balls in a basket at the end of each court, because this time is way too important for these kids. Now what can they be doing now? Handing the ball up and down, working on their reverse, all that sort of stuff, right? Passing up against the wall. And where's our ring man? Ring man? Good. Okay, because I'm going to keep coming back to that. Okay, so, and we can have them shooting the ball. But the problem is the ring. The Department of Sport and Rec asked me to lecture to all sports, lots of different sports. I had no idea what I was going to do. My first lecture was just, I'm talking to cricketers, I'm talking to golfers. It's sort of okay, talking to swimmers, yeah, I've swum. 2 BMX coaches come in. What do I do as a BMX coach? The cricketers practice when they're with the little kids. They stick the ball on a cone and they teach them their shots. And they're out there and they've got stumps all over the place. And they teach them to throw over the stumps. And they've got kids lined up and they're bowling at the stumps, and one after the other, and all that sort of stuff. They never, for years, with the Milo cricket thing, take them into the middle and say, here's the game, start to play. The footballers kick the ball to that person, that movable object. That person moves, even if they kick it back, you go and get it. You kick it to me, obviously you're going to kick it back. And I go and get it. Right? The bike, you grab the end of the bike and they ride when they first start and you stay with them. And then they progress and they stick a couple of trainer wheels on and they progress. And then we take them up and down the footpath and then around the park. And then they're allowed to ride. We don't say, there's the freeway, off you go. That's the finished product. What defines basketball? That hoop. Drive around here, there's one in every 6th house. There's a hoop there. My mate owns a sports store. He ordered in 13 sea containers of basketball flat packs. Sea containers. Ridiculous. So everybody can have a TV antenna and a basketball hoop out the front. We're the only sport that I can see that start at the end. The very first thing we do is say, get it in that thing. It's very difficult to get it in that thing. If it was easy, Brett would have been able to. I got to play against him a bunch of times. It was fun. He's from Victoria, they're beat us. We start at the end, we don't teach the skill. What happens when the ball goes in? What happens when the ball doesn't go in? You can set your watch to it. People are in the grandstand, great shot. Everything was perfect. The ball lips out as a crab did. Piece of crap. Gets chucked up. Hits the corner of the back. Misses by 2 meters. Spins. Pops in the hole. Bounces around 16 times. Goes in. The crowd goes nuts. As coaches, we reinforce bad stuff because of the success of that particular action. The ball went in the hole. The kids are out there working on their cricket. I don't know if it was Melbourne or anything. I didn't play. But they're out there working on their action. What do? Trying to get in the hoop. We teach an action, we teach an action, we teach an action, and then the kid gets near the hoop, and what do? Everything goes out the window. He's got to get in the hole. So when do you teach you? When do you need to teach you? When there's no ring there. They need to do this action time and time and time and time and time again until they feel great with the action. What does a golfer do? Goes to the driving range. There is no consequence. Whack. Who cares? Put another one. Smack. Out there. Who cares? You don't take a golfer, a young golfer, take him straight to the course and say, here you go, stick in the hole down there, 314 metres. Right? We don't do that. But in basketball, we do. We take him to the end and say, get it in the hole. What's the chances if you leave the ball on the side of the court, a kid's going to grab it and stick it in the hole? You don't have to worry about that side of it. They want to do that. You don't have to drive that. They're going to want to do that anyway. It's the fun, the enjoyable part of the sport, without a shadow of a doubt. But if you clap every time the ball goes in, you're reinforcing something that might not have been correct. What should you be clapping? The screen, the pass, the good deed, the great rebound, all that sort of stuff. It's going to be that point of emphasis that creates your team. It doesn't matter what you say. Oh, I've told them 14 times. Well, you didn't get the point across, obviously. But, you know, I showed them that at training. Well, they didn't learn it. Did they learn everything they did at school? You go through one session, here's how to write. See ya. Of course not. It had to be done in a different way, in a different way, in a different way, in a different way. So what happens here is, we need to make sure that we've got a point of emphasis all the time. It's not going to be what you teach. It's not going to be what you say. It's not going to be what you work at training. It's going to be what you emphasise. I want you to throw an outside hand pass. So they throw a chest pass, turn over. No, I want you to throw an outside hand pass. So they throw a chest pass, turn over. Is that your point of emphasis? Obviously. What's the rest of the group doing now? Getting stuck into this kid because they can't play, because this guy keeps turning the ball over. Make an outside hand pass. Now he's got all these peers telling him to make an outside hand pass. And then he's got the rougher one who's saying, you don't make an outside hand pass, I'm taking you outside. I want to play, and you keep turning the ball over. Right? Or they meet him in the car park or whatever happens in Pakenham. I don't know.
You're on the money there, mate.
I'll do it on the court. Okay, you know what I'm saying though? Is your point of emphasis, what is that important to you that you've got to make sure this gets done? Okay, so what I'm saying is, it's about minutes. Now what do you want them doing? You want them pivoting? Yep.
Yeah.
You want to take a heap of time training to work on the pivot? No. What about the reverse dribble? What about the crossover? What about all that sort of stuff? Yeah, you want to revise it, you want to make sure, you want to tell them, this is important to me all the time, we're going to start training with this, boom, 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 boom. But they need to do 2 lots of 15 minutes, 3 lots of half an hour, 1 lot of 20 minutes. Whatever you decide, whatever fits with your group, they need to do some homework. How much space do they need? As much as we have here. That's it. How much could they get done on that? Now, what about shooting the ball into the air? What about shooting it onto the wall? Who's got a ring? None of the kids got a ring. You don't have to worry about that one. Huh? So all they need is that much space, and you've given them some homework to work on their skills, and you'll know within 2 weeks whether or not they've done it or not. You'll know straight away. Now you've got your group doing a whole bunch of the fundamentals that you talked about. When do we bring it in, 10-year-old, 14-year-old, etc., etc. Now you've got a whole bunch of kids who are now working on all this sort of stuff. What else do you want to work on? Rebounding. They never run towards the ball. Okay? Let's do some of that at home, guys. Chuck it up off the wall, go, I want you to jump, land, balance. Darrell's the expert on all that sort of stuff. Right, on power base and etc., etc. He's right over that, well and truly. What else do you want them doing? Passing. What's the problem with the girls? Can't catch. What else? The little girls, they can't catch. That's a heavy ball coming at them.
They can't throw.
They can't throw with any strength. So we want to build the strength. Push pass. Right? So what do we do? Chest pass. We did ABCs. Yep. And then we walk into first year uni, and on top of the board is our ABCs, and everybody sits in the classroom and turns it into ABC and turns it into a song. Don't they, first year uni? No, of course they don't. Everybody moves on. So we learn chest pass, and now we're going, but we don't keep doing it. We go, I'm going to make a pass like this, so we practice that one, not this one. Or we do that drill and drill and drill, but we don't do this one. We don't do that one. How many girls can skip pass properly? They can't, but if they practice, they will. How many little boys can skip past? The 13, 14, they can't skip past. So therefore, what does the defence do? All sags across to one other side, because they know they don't have to worry about that side, because it's going to take 2 or 3 passes before it gets there anyway. So we can have them in, and you can set up homework and say, this is how I want you to do your homework. I want you to do it like this. Now they're going to do it. Some way. So you've got a group that says yes. They say, yep, we'll do it. Are you sure? Yeah, yeah. Well now, what are all our life lessons? You gotta keep your commitment. You said you would. All right, you two are buddying up. You make sure he does it. You make sure he does it. Check with him. I'll check back with you in a month's time. You don't like that system? Use one of these. Hey, I just want you to do 3 minutes worth. Get your mum to do 3 minutes worth of a clip, and then bring it to training. So you can see the intensity that they're working with at home. Will they enjoy that? It would be a bit of fun for them. Huh? What do you do with the homework? Do the same thing every week? No, you change it up all the time. You might have 10 different items, and you go, This month, we're doing this. Next month, you don't tell them, because that wouldn't be exciting, right? But next month, we're going to do this, we're going to change it up. And then we're going to change it up again, and we're going to change it up again. And you keep it fresh. Do you do all the same drills? Why do the girls stop at 16? We've been bagging the girls. Why do they stop at 16? Because they don't. And everybody says, oh, they find boys, they're more interested in boys. So they don't go to uni, they don't go to school, they don't eat. No, they keep doing all that other stuff, they stop basketball. Why do they stop basketball? Because they don't like it. It's as simple as that. If they liked it, they'd keep doing it. Do you do stuff you like? What's the average age here?
38.
I was going to be 27.
Plus.
27 sounds good. 27, right? So the average age. But you do stuff you like, and you've done it for years and years. Why did they stop? Because they're smarter than the boys. The boys keep going until they're 18 and then they stop. It takes them 2 years longer to work out that this is crap. It's boring. I don't like it anymore. That man over there shouts at me and I'm not having a good time. I don't want to do it anymore. I'm not saying look, I can poke fun at myself all the time because I know how bad I am in so many different basketball scenarios. But I challenge people's minds. This year, state under 20 girls, I think they had, this is West Australia, 14 girls try out or something like that. 6 of them were kids that I coached in the 13s. So almost 50% of the squad that tried out were the kids I coached when they were little. Because I didn't just coach them and say, here's the drill, here's the drill, here's the drill. I said, here's the reason. And here's the reason, this is why you need to try this, and this is why you should try this, and blah, blah, blah. And they stayed in the sport. They're 19 years old, and they're trying out for the state under 20s and all still playing. Now that, I'm going to say, that's community. When people stay in the community, and they keep trying back into the community, they enjoy the community, that's real community. So why do the girls pull out? Because we do the same drills. We don't challenge them, we don't inspire them, we don't focus them. We go, training's here, boom, boring. Now, I'm not suggesting that that's every answer. Not at all. Some of it is relationship breakdown, because now I'm going to bag them, because they get bitchier than the boys do, and the boys just want to play. But some of it is part-time jobs,
Body changing.
all that, everything.
Yeah.
You throw it all in there. But I want to say, why do some coaches have all their kids keep going through? Because there's a chance they met them in some form mentally, and that's what the challenge is for the girls. Okay, so we've got a little bit of an idea here with regard to this, and with regard to playing lots of games is not necessarily going to build their skills. But what is it? That's the fun, that's the enjoyment part. You don't take games away. We can't take one, but that's the test at the end of the week. That's the exam at the end of the semester. That's what they've been building towards. The games, the test, how much work did they get done to get ready for it? And part of that is the development of these skills for you to teach them. Now you might even go down and say to Darrell, look, I want to grab a snippet of the camp when you guys were teaching such and such, so that I can have a session with all my girls in the room. We do a video session and nail down our homework and how we're going to work through it. Okay. I'll take a couple of minutes off. Is that all right?
Yeah,
Take a breather, grab a drink, go to the toilet if you need to, all that sort of stuff. There's 2 bits of